This is the next trait, is competence. This is a key ingredient to a successful life, obviously. Women want to be with a competent man. He doesn't have to be like a wealthy man, he just has to be competent. You can be a competent musician and be like on your game and on your path. You can be a competent, whatever you do with your life, and still be, even if you're not making a lot of money, you can still be very competent at it. When I think of competence, it's ability. This is actually, my buddy came up with this, so I shouldn't say it's what I think of it, but I thought it was such a great encapsulation of it. Ability plus responsibility plus reliability. So I'll repeat that. Competence is ability plus responsibility plus reliability. Competence is the natural outcome of having a mission in your life. I was a very incompetent man when I didn't have a mission. I had my software company, but I didn't really give a shit about it. It was just an ego project for me. It was like, oh, I went out and I raised some venture capital money and I bought an Audi TT. I didn't give a shit about what I was doing. I just liked the ego of saying that I ran this business. Now, I give a shit about what I'm doing. I wouldn't be refilming this if I didn't. And Evan has seen me in a professional context. We don't work, you're not an employee of mine, but you've seen the way I work with people. It's like I have extremely high expectations. And a degree of competence that's come about from just having this mission that I feel a strong urge to share with the world. So we talk about having a mission in Ignition. It's another program in the course. But in short, I'll just tell you, mission is something that gets talked about a lot. Having a mission is something that doesn't happen overnight. It's kind of like just finds you if you're doing something you love. 3 hallmarks of competence of men who are acting in competence. Some of you guys have heard me talk about this already. Letting your actions control your emotions. If you've never heard me say this before, I did not come up with the concept. It was given to me by a mentor. But as soon as it hit me, the truth of it was like, that is what a competent man is. A man who lets his actions control his emotions, not his emotions control his actions. You don't feel like going to the gym, I get it. You're kind of down, go anyway. Let your actions control emotions. Imagine how great you will feel when you leave the gym. You don't feel like approaching her, your emotions are a little afraid, I get it. It's cool, we've all felt that. But imagine how great you'll feel when you go back to your buddies with her number, or at least like, dude, I fucking did it. There's this like high, if you're not used to approaching girls, raise your hand if you remember this. I'm even getting goosebumps as I think about it. Like the first few times I would go out and like approach girls with my buddies, and even if they rejected me, when it was about me and my boys and like, we fucking did it, man, like there's this little high that you get. Like just the feeling that you get from doing that and letting your actions control your emotion. So that's number 1. Number 2 is balancing fun and responsibility. This is a second hallmark of confidence, I guess we could call it. The sub-bullet, if you're going that far in your notes. Balancing fun and responsibility. My mid-20s was all fun. My early 20s was all responsibility. Nobody wants to be with either person. Right now, it's like a lot of responsibility, not as much fun, and I'm aware of that, and I like talk to my girlfriend about it. I'm like, listen, babe, like I know we're not having as much fun right now. Just let me get through this phase of like what we're trying to do in the business. But balancing fun and responsibility is, a competent man is able to do both. Finally, creating more than you consume. My mid-20s were a testament to the fact that if you consume more than you create in terms of bottles at the nightclub, girls, afterwards, Lord knows what else, but I wasn't creating anything. I was just consuming, spending. If you create more than you consume, that is the hallmark of a competent man. I've given you some examples of incompetence as I've been talking through this, my overspending days. Another big one of incompetence for me was staying in business partnerships for too long. I don't know if any of you guys are entrepreneurs, but it's very easy to stay in a business partnership for too long when it feels safe. Similar to a relationship. Sometimes you're in these very nice relationships. We were talking about, girl earlier, why do people stay in relationships? They just don't feel competent stepping out and being on their own. Few examples of competence. It's a little bit difficult to demo competence because it's more of something that just comes out in a day-to-day experience of your life. There's something we call passive value. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. Passive value is the world you create. The more impressive the world you create, the more competent you appear. 50 Shades of Grey is a great example. She walks into his office, and he's just sitting there the way I picture it is he's like Monty Burns, but like really handsome. I don't know if you guys watch The Simpsons. Like, you know, Burns just has that long antechamber, and like he's got this big imposing desk, and he's got like a little vacuum that comes down and sucks people away when he's unhappy with him. That's how I picture Christian Grey, except a really, you know, kind of handsome dude. So that right there is a great example of competence. She just walks in and she sees, like, holy shit, like, this guy's got his shit together. But there's some other ways that competence can come out in your own life. In conversations, one thing we'll be talking about a little later is stories about values and vision. So when you're talking and you're telling stories about your life, you want to lead with the values that caused you to do what you're doing in those stories, and like your vision for the future that is the outcome of those stories. So I know that's kind of conceptual here. We'll make it specific. Maybe you can join me. Is this part of the demo? I think it is. Yeah. Okay, cool. So a few years ago in the business, I had to fire somebody who I was very close to and who was a great friend. And this is just a little example of me talking and hopefully displaying some degree of competence. So I can't remember exactly how this starts. Did you ask me a question to start it off?
Yeah, I asked you, you're telling me about your work, and I asked you what's the toughest decision you've ever had to make.
That's right. Yeah, so I'll start by talking about work. So yeah, I mean, it's just been an amazing ride. You know, I started with like nothing. What's that Drake song? It's real popular. Starting from the bottom. I like totally identified it when I saw it. And there's been like so many hard decisions along the way, but like overall it's just been pretty amazing.
What's one of the toughest decisions you've had to make?
Well, okay, so you already know, like, I'm really passionate about this, and I feel the need to like share it with people, not just the desire, but the need to share this with people. Yeah. And there was a guy I was working with for a while, and he was a really good friend. We partied together, we hung out, we just really enjoyed, like, he was like my bro, right? Like, not my brother, but he's like my bro. And problem was, his mission was not the same as mine. He was a little bit more into like just partying and like living his life on a day-to-day basis. And I don't know, it was like, I had to let him go, basically, is the short version. I had to fire him. And it kind of came down to this simple choice. It's like, am I going to grow this thing and share it with the world, or is this going to be about like, you know, just a little small thing that I get held back with? Right. And you know, I didn't want, like, my desire to share this with the world was greater than like my desire to like be held back and still like keep him in the business just as sort of a, you know, like a, I don't know, as a nice thing to do.
Right.
So, yeah.
Tough.
It is tough. So anyway, thank you. That's great. So yeah, that was like just an example of me kind of talking in a way that displays some degree of competence. Is I'm leading with my visions and my values, right? So my values are, I need to share this with the world. This is important to me. I'm not going to let this be held back. So that's very different than like if I were to say, well, you know what, I thought I could make a lot more money without him. Or, you know what, like he was just like he was getting drunk all the time, which is true. So that's just an example of leading with visions and values. When you tell your story, you're really trying to connect with like, I have this bigger mission, I have this bigger thing that I'm doing. So that is competence. Third element of being an obsession-worthy man, every obsession-worthy man, is challenging. They are not pushovers. Now, this is slightly different than dominant. Dominant is a guy who just takes what he wants. Challenging is something quite different. Challenging is you expect that there are people who want something from you, and you challenge them to live up to your expectations. Being challenging, interestingly enough, I've found in my life that it's a natural result of success and competence. When I started this business, I think I've mentioned I was 6 figures in debt, and I felt very incompetent, and my life was kind of shit. And I always felt like when I was approaching people, I was, you know, coming up with an empty glass, and the glass was probably this big because of how much debt I had. I was like, please fill it. And you know, these days, just as a result of having had some success and being competent, I'm forced to challenge people. We get a lot of emails from people who want this or want that. You know, girls come into your life and they want to be a part of it. And so you have to challenge people. So this is one of these traits that subconsciously, when somebody is challenging to you, it automatically triggers an instinctive thought about them that like, wow, this person must be successful. This person must be on their grind. This person must be somebody who I want to have in my life, who I want to qualify myself to. You can fake it till you make it, and you know, a lot of people do. But as I said, the more successful you become, the more competent you are in your life, the more that this will just be a natural outcome of your personality. As I mentioned, it comes from having high expectations for others. Where do high expectations from others come from? Start with having high expectations for yourself. And again, in my own life, I hate to keep talking about myself. I feel like it's really like, oh, it's all about me. But that's the place that I'm trying to teach from. So, you know, I have very high expectations for my health, for my fitness, for my work, for my finances, for the people who are in my life. So starting from that place, you begin to have high expectations for others. One of the interesting things about literotica heroes and romance novel heroes is like, these guys are so challenging that they almost can't imagine that women have something to offer. In some of the edgier books, like some of the books where women kind of give themselves to guys or the guys just take the women, it's almost like the guys just see this woman and they're like, you know, like whatever. I'm off sailing a boat around the world, or I'm off like about to fight a war, or I'm off like about to do something big and grand. And like, you have nothing to give me. You have nothing to offer me. So being challenging to these women is just like, it is deep in the DNA of every single literotica novel, and you'll see that with every single character. What does it mean to be challenging to a woman? Like, how does this work itself out? Well, I'm going to give you some demonstrations, but I think the place to start is that you challenge her to be more than a pretty face. Last week when we filmed Ignition, I talked about developing sort of a tolerance to very beautiful women. And this is something that, again, comes with time and comes with talking to beautiful women. But I can say, again, speaking from my own perspective, when I look at a beautiful woman in the eye these days, it's a very different sort of emotional experience for me than it was 10 years ago. And that's just a result of having talked to them and dated them and been with them. So having a tolerance for beauty and challenging her to be more than a pretty face is a big key of being challenging. Another element of this, and this is like foundational for the lifetime of your relationship. You know, guys get into relationships and they're like, they just give in. They become this kind of, you know, this wuss. And that's fine. I'm not saying like don't embrace your woman with loving arms, but you should always try to keep a little part of yourself for her to try to keep winning over. Always. You should always try to keep a little part of yourself for her to keep trying to win over. There's always something that she's got to kind of do for you or prove to you in a cute way, in a fun way, but challenging does not stop when you get into a relationship. So there's some good examples in here. All right, so we're going to demonstrate a few things about being challenging right now, and you are welcome to come on up. So the first one is just really easy. It's the old line. Maybe you guys have heard this before. It's too bad it'll never work out between us. Everybody here has heard that line or is familiar with it. So this one, if you don't say it to girls, you should start saying it to girls because it works out amazingly. And it sort of like puts a frame on the interaction. Now, you're going to have to watch my body language too when I'm doing this. Because when I challenge her, so you're going to notice that I'm going to be like coming in. Could you move just a little bit this way? Thanks. So I'm going to like come in and like, you know, invade her space. When I challenge her, I'm going to come out and like actually break space. And then when I am going to sort of re-engage her, you'll see that I'm going to come in and re-enter her space. So so maybe we've met at a bar and it comes up and like, oh, so what do you do in New York?
I'm an actress and a dancer.
An actress and a dancer? Shit.
Yeah.
All right. It's never going to work out between us. I'm sorry. I've dated a few actresses, and I think I'm just sticking to librarians from here on out. So. But you are cute, though. What do you like about acting?
I just love performing.
Perform? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got any performances to show me right now, or like any dances, or like So anyway, did you see how like I kind of broke space when I did the challenge and then came back in? I was like, but you are cute. What do you like about acting? Just come back in. So that's the first example of being challenging. This next one is great, and I couldn't actually remember what I said to the girl because this was like in my, this was like towards the end of college. But there was this girl, and we were kind of like, we hadn't actually like kissed each other yet, but there was like a lot of flirtation going on, same social circle. We're at the bar one night, and I challenged her on her sexual inexperience. Now this can be very dangerous because like it could just be very dangerous. So as I created this example, I thought like, I couldn't remember what I said to her because it was like 10 years ago. So this example sort of comes from like just me thinking like, what would I say to a girl right now if I wanted to challenge her sexual experience? So we'll just start talking. I'd be like, okay, so listen, I really like talking to you, but I don't know, like you just seem like such a good girl. Like, tell me about something dangerous that you've done.
What do you mean?
Dangerous, like you know, like I don't know, like okay, so like I've climbed a volcano, looked down into the lava. I've like raced motorcycles, made love to a woman while driving a stick shift. Like, okay, yeah, like what's something dangerous you've done? So anyway, we would just kind of leave it at that, and I would just leave it on her at that point. I'd be like, okay, give me something. But so I kind of like throw out these. You notice those are like high value things. I don't expect that everybody in the world has climbed a volcano, but something that you've done that's dangerous. And the last part of it was like very specific. You actually noticed her face, but like I threw in that like I've made love while driving a stick shift. That was a very specific verbal sexual escalation technique. She's like, oh, we're going there. And it just introduces it to the conversation. And if we were at a bar, if there was some drinking involved, and if there was like already a degree of flirtation between us, that specific line it would just totally create a sexual vibe in the conversation. And she would not miss it, even if she didn't respond to it right away. So third one, this I need both my hands for, is what I call polarity escalation. And this is where you are the one escalating on the girl, but you're telling her, but you're talking to her as if she is the one who's escalating on you. So this will be like, normally you would do this over a period of like minutes, and we don't have minutes to make out with each other. So I'll just show you like a condensed version of it. So like we'd be talking, we'd be like, you know, all over each other. Okay, stop it, okay? Like, and I'd be kissing her, right? So I'm kissing her, I'm like, stop it, seriously, you have to stop it. You can't make me do this, okay? And then I'd come back in and kiss her. And I'd like come back out, we'd look at each other again, I'd come back in, kiss her again. Seriously, like I'm not giving myself to you this way tonight. Just come back in again. So it's really fun, right? And you're gonna break it up with like you're escalating and you're the one who's doing this. And you could kind of do this in the early stages of escalation too. I've done this at nightclubs. We were kind of talking to a girl, your hand is around her back, and you're like, okay, look, you gotta stop this right now. And she's like, what? I'm like, you really have to like stop trying to turn me on. And she's like, what? And you're like, seriously, like if you don't keep doing this, like I'm just gonna have to kiss you. And she's like, what? And you're like, no, really, you have to stop. So it just kind of like rolls like that, and it's a really fun way, if she's part of the vibe, to like just keep the sexual tension flowing. So thank you very much. That's just a great way of being challenging. All right, the next element of masculine power, and we have 3 more. The next element of masculine power is mysteriousness. So a lot of the literotica men, there's like this deep, dark mysteriousness that like they hold to themselves. And I remember one of the lines in 50 Shades of Grey. That's the book I'll always reference because everybody knows it. I was reading it on the Kindle, and it had like, does anybody have a Kindle? So you know that like, it shows like underlined passages that like everybody else is underlined. And there were like 58,000 underlines for this one line. And it was, they're laying in bed and like Anna's been trying to get him to open up. And she's like, why won't you open up to me? And he goes, because I'm 50 shades of fucked up, Anna. And there's like 58,000 underlines. I'm like, oh my God, what? Like, and you know it's not men underlining that. It's like women. I'm like, what does that say about women that that's the line that they underline? It's like there's this mysterious man who all of a sudden reveals his vulnerability to her. So it starts with being mysterious, though, and it starts with selectively holding back information, and also interest in her. So you don't feel the need to share anything about yourself or get validation from others in some ways. You don't need to give away your interest to make her like you. I remember back in the early days, and I think this is something we can all relate to, is you feel like the only move you've got is to tell her that you like her. And like back in probably high school, it's like, Elizabeth, I just love being around you. I just like think about how much I love spending time with you. Like, you're just giving away your interest, right? And that's not the only move you've got. We've already shown you a lot more. But that is not mysterious. That's like, you've showed your hand, she knows what's up. A great way to think about being mysterious, this is a line adapted from David D'Angelo, is give her the gift of wondering about you. If you think about good relationships you've been in and women who you've really liked in your life, the women who you like are not the easy ones. They're the ones who it's like 3 days and you're like, oh, when is she going to call me back? And like your heart's beating, or you send her a text and you're like, is she going to respond to me? It's a little hair raising, but if you think back to those romances, those are always the sweetest. Those are the ones that are like the ups and the downs of life, they're fun. So give her that same gift. Let her wonder about you. And there's this one other thing that I want to mention while we're talking about mysteriousness. I know that a past belief that I had, or a past thought I had, was I just want girls to like me for me. I don't want to have to play the game. I don't want to have to hold things back. I just want to be able to sit there, tell her what's on my mind, and have her like me for me. And that's fine, but not really, because it's fun to play the game if you know how to play it. That's what makes her get into you. That's what keeps her working for you. It's that mysteriousness, the challenge. So if that's a belief that you have, I just want to suggest that that's not a healthy belief. And the real belief that you should have is, I want to make her work for me. I want to make her work to get things out of me. So a couple of examples of mysteriousness at this point. Please join me once again. This is something that sort of permeates a lot of your conversations. It's going to permeate your life. You're going to hold things back. But we'll give you a few examples. The first one here is watch my expressiveness. So one of the key things that we teach at the Social Man, especially if you come in and do coaching, is expression. You see a lot of guys who walk up to girls in bars, and I actually see this when I'm standing here talking to you guys. When you're either tired or bored or nervous, your face goes like this. And she can't tell which one it is. If you are doing that to her, as Nick likes to say, you might be thinking about cutting off her hair and adding it to the ball in your attic. She just doesn't know if you're And when guys are nervous, that's what they do. So we like to teach expressiveness. We like to teach how to just have a lot of expression in your face. And if you've noticed when I've been talking to Alex, there is a lot of expression in my face. A lot of mysteriousness comes from just the expressiveness in your face. So if you can move just a little bit right there, perfect. So if we're talking, I can just watch my eye contact as I say stuff like this. Be like, yeah, really like talking to you. And the narrowing of the eyes, the subtlety of my tone. It's not like, I really like talking to you. It's like, yeah, really like talking to you. Something like that. So that's just the expressiveness, is narrowing the tone. Are you recording right now? Okay, it's okay. It's all on camera. So the nervousness of the tone. Okay, so here's something that I'll often do. I'll often do an open loop. Do you guys know what an open loop is? It's basically when you open up a loop that a person. Well, I don't know how to describe an open loop. I'll just demonstrate it for you. So we're wrapping up our first date. Tomorrow I'll be giving you guys a first date strategy, exactly what to do. So we're wrapping up our first date. I've just paid for drinks, and I'm like, so you up for something else?
What do you mean?
Well, we might just have something else on the agenda.
I might like something else.
All right,
What
cool.
is it?
Tell you what, I got to use the restroom, but I'll tell you when I come back, all right? So again, just notice a couple things there. The open loop is just that I've opened up this question in her mind that is unfilled for a while and just kind of keeps her thinking. This is the psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect. Also, again, just look at the eye contact when I do that, right? So, so she says, what? So just what is it?
What is it?
I'll tell you what. I got to go to the restroom, but I'll tell you when I come back. So I'm turning my back, but I'm still like keeping my eye on her with that just like mischievous smile. And she doesn't know what's coming up, right? So that's mysteriousness. Another example is what I call selective attention. You guys might have seen this demonstrated, and this is going to require Alex to share a little bit more about herself. So if you could stand actually right here while you talk. Yeah, so here's what you guys want to look out for, is watch my eyes as she continues to talk. What you'll see is that my eyes are going to fall away for a little bit, and then when I respond to her, I'm going to have a very specific response and look her right in the eyes. So the point of the eyes falling away is to sort of let her wonder, is he getting bored right now? Am I losing him? And this is somewhat mysterious. So, so we were talking about the tattoo, and you have this beautiful tattoo. So I say, Free, how'd you end up with that?
Well, I used to work like a very boring, conventional 9-to-5 job.
Okay.
And then I quit my job and I pursued a career in acting and dance.
Okay.
So for my first big dance job in LA, I felt kind of liberated and sort of impulsively got a tattoo, and it says Free.
Huh. So I'm just trying to think, like, because LA has, I mean, what was the feeling of LA that day?
It was kind of surreal. It just felt like I used to be so confined and stuck in that job, and then being in LA just sort of felt like a realization of some sort. So that's kind of where that all came about.
So it was just a spur of the moment
Totally,
decision.
impulsively.
That's
But it means something at the same time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Those are the best experiences.
Yeah, they are.
We might have one to. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, so that's selective attention. You notice my eyes just started to wander a little bit, and then when I responded, I didn't like rush into the response. I like spent some time thinking about something to say, and I probably could have said something more intelligent, but yeah, but it's fine. It's like, man, how did LA feel that day? And I'm just trying to kind of get into her world and paint a picture in my mind of what her world was like. But again, for a while, I just like zoned out. And you can do this. I've done this on dates. Another great, I remember this from a date, is a girl was talking to me, and she was telling me about how much she likes Friends. And this girl, in fairness, I was really just interested in hooking up with her. And sorry to say, I didn't really care what she had to say about Friends. And so I started to zone out as she was talking about Friends. And so she's talking, and then I kind of zone out. And then like I just look her right in the eye, and with a little bit of a deadpan expression, she's like, what? And I'm just kind of lean over the table, and I'm like, I just really want to kiss you right now. Just lean over, like, kiss her. So that's another way you can use selective attention, is just zone out, and if you feel there's a sexual vibe between the two of you, or this might work, just go in for the kiss. That's good for mysterious. There's also some like mysterious compliments you can give a girl. I wrote this one down. So like, you could say like, these are good. Like, is that your perfume? And you just, right? Yes. But so, actually, could you just come up here for a second? So imagine we're out and I'm like standing next to you and we're talking. And I'm like, is that your perfume? Hang on. I love it. It smells amazing. So, but you notice, like, the way I said it, she doesn't know if I'm like, I kind of said it with the same tone of like, did you just fart? And that's like, as soon as I saw your response, I was like, okay, like I have to. Another one that I've used is, have you ever smiled at yourself in a mirror and seen what it looks like?
Yeah, I think so.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so that's it. Just like mysterious compliments that are like, it makes her wonder like, what. So those are like some funny things to say, but the perfume one, especially at a bar, is like, you take it away, right? And she's like, oh my God, did I just like, what's going on? And then like, no, I love it. It's amazing. So that is mysteriousness. The fifth element of masculine power is genuineness. Ultimately, when Christian admits that he's 50 shades of fucked up, he's starting to become genuine. And if you don't have a degree of genuineness, and this is something that I lacked for many years when I was going through that whole like pickup artist, going out and hooking up a lot phase, like you just kind of hit a wall with the girl and she realizes, like really quality women realize they just can't get past that. So what is it to be genuine? You're driven to discover and seek truth. One of my favorite books that I've read in the last 2 years is, does anybody know Bridgewater Capital? Anybody in the finance world? So Bridgewater Capital is sort of the Apple of hedge funds. The founder is a guy named Ray Dalio, and he wrote a free PDF. It's called Ray Dalio's Principles. He's actually a Long Island boy. And he wrote Ray Dalio's Principles. It's free, and it's probably the best thing I've read in the last 2 or 3 years. One of the things he points out is that nature gave us pain as a messaging device to tell us when we are reaching or at our limits. Yet at the same time, being at or near limits indicates that we are about to grow. So it's only when we are experiencing pain that we can achieve growth. And so when I think of truth and being genuine and searching for something, I think to myself, maybe it requires that I learn more about myself, that I go through moments of pain in my life, that I seek a deeper truth about who I am, become somebody who a woman would actually want to be with. So it starts with just that, holding on to that thought. You're driven to discover and seek truth about yourself and about others. Another thing that's important about being genuine is when you're strong and you have self-esteem, you don't need someone. Right? You don't need someone when you're strong in your self-esteem. So your desire for them is based on your true appreciation and true feeling for them. If you go out to a bar, if you're talking to a woman, if you don't feel like you need a woman because of you're on your path, you have self-esteem, then you can actually spend the time deciding, is this somebody who I really want to have in my life? Or is this somebody who I'm just reaching out to because I need them? One of the things that always used to hang me up in the past was I would always express emotional attachment first in relationships. This is like the common high school thing, right? You're into a girl, the first thing you say is, I like you so much. Or like, I just think about you all the time. Like, I really want to be with you, I want to take care of you, or at least you're thinking those thoughts in your head. That's where you're expressing your emotional attachment to her before anything else has happened. And when you're genuine, if you're kind of in line with yourself, with your self-esteem, with your mission, on your path, all that stuff that we keep talking about, then what's going to happen is you're going to express your sexual desire. You express your admiration. You're going to have some danger with her, express some excitement before there's emotional attachment. So these days, sexual attraction is really the one that I want you guys to focus on here. A lot of guys express their emotional attraction far before they express their sexual attraction. That's a surefire way to end up in the friend zone. So being genuine with a girl, I mean, even if you're really feeling emotionally attracted to her, just try to, I mean, I know that's not being genuine, but the genuineness she wants to feel is the genuineness of a man who likes her for who she is getting to know her, taking his time to get to know her, qualifying her, challenging her, attracted to her sexually, and she kind of wins him over. I know I'm speaking of some broad concepts here, so maybe this will all pull it together. She becomes unique and special to you on a deep level for reasons that she didn't even see herself. That, to me, is truly what being genuine is about. She becomes unique and special to you on a deep level for reasons she didn't even know about. So working towards being genuine with her is about who she is, not about her. It's about her motivations, her beliefs, her values. What are the things that, when you two are raising children together, are going to make her a great mother of your children? Needless to say, it's kind of hard to demonstrate genuine. You can't hey, we're going to have a genuine conversation right now. So there is no demonstration for that one. But that's fine, because that leaves us for the last and perhaps most fun trait, and that's sexual. So a obsession-worthy man is sexual. He's tuned into his sexuality. He's comfortable with his sexuality. I think of sexuality as the gateway to and the expression of lust, desire, and love. And it starts with what I would call the look. Has anybody here heard me talk about the look before? I think you've heard me talk about the look. The guy who does the look best is Tom Cruise. If you watch Top Gun, and I tell everybody go watch Top Gun and watch that scene in Top Gun where he's looking at Kelly McGillis like, I'm going to have sex with you in just a little bit. That's the look. So maybe you can come up here for just a moment and I could just kind of demonstrate the look. And I've been doing it a lot. Just, yeah, right there's good. So it's just a deep look into her eyes, maybe a little tilt of the head, a little narrowing of the expression. And what the look is saying is like, I want you, I could have you, but I'm having fun. I appreciate you. I'd probably envision grabbing your hair, but like not quite that much, and you don't actually know that just yet. There's all these things that the look is saying, but really what I'm thinking when I'm giving her the look is I'm just looking straight at her and just being attracted to her. So if we were talking, and you can talk about just the tattoo or whatever. So that's it.
Yeah, so I was in LA and walking past the tattoo shop, and in that moment just felt really liberated. So I walked into the tattoo shop and I said, put 3 on my wrist. So it's kind of how it went.
I love it. So it's just that simple. A deep look into the eye, a little bit of tilt of the head, narrowing of the eyes. Thank you very much for that. So that's where sexuality starts. It's just this look like, I'm very attracted to you as I'm talking to you right now. I'm just giving her some space to talk. The next phase of sexuality, or at least a thought that I like to bring into sexuality, is it gives you pleasure to bring her pleasure. It gives you pleasure to bring her pleasure. And you know, a lot of guys, they go out into the world, they're like, yo, I just want to get off, want to, you know, fuck some sluts, whatever euphemism you use. But if your approach is truly, it brings you pleasure to give her pleasure, then that will sort of reframe every interaction you have with her, and she'll really feel that. When I'm looking at a girl and giving her that look, I'm not thinking like, holy shit, I want to like put her over a rail, and you know, it's like, I want to make love to this woman. I want her to feel that. And that's a very different thing than just like the creepy, like, want to get off, right? Another key element of sexuality is not having shame or guilt about your sexual desires. So I grew up in a very Christian household. I remember having like pictures that I'd cut out from the Sports Illustrated swimsuit catalog in my like closet. And one day I just like, I don't know why, I felt so guilty. And I like went in, like just grabbed them all, tore them all down. I think I'd probably just done some rosaries, some confessionals or something. And Nick, who you'll be hearing from shortly, he came from a similar background. Both of us have talked about how this is something that we struggled with, our sexual desire. But it's just such a natural part of humanity. Fortunately, Nick will be speaking about this extensively. Another key element of sexuality that I want you to bring into your interactions with women is it's not about when you want it most, it's about when she wants it most. So this was like a big game changer for me. When I got into the whole pickup artist thing, when I was really trying to like go out, hook up with chicks, all that, I was always pushing for sex. And some girls would go for it. Like they'd just be like, okay, fine. You know, girls got to get some too. But what I found was much more effective, especially in developing quality relationships, is not pushing for it when I want it most, pushing for it when she wants it most. So that's all about building sexual tension. That's all about keeping it exciting, giving her romantic moments, turning her on, but not actually needing to get off. Hold your power back a little bit. Your desire for her should be tempered, at least if not in reality, at least she should feel this a little bit. Your desire for her should be tempered by sexual abundance. You know, you don't need, another guy who we'll be hearing from in a little bit, he hooks up with a lot of girls. One of the first times he hung out with my girlfriend, he was like, yeah, what do? I work out and I work and I fuck girls. And that is sort of an outwardly offensive comment, except that if you know this guy, he is so congruent with it. And he lives that, and girls can feel that. They can just feel this guy hooks up with a lot of girls. So even though he might desire her, and he might be very expressive of that desire, he can still leave it in a moment. And that's where sexuality starts to become very powerful. So a few things about sexuality, if you could come back up. We've already demonstrated a lot of stuff. I don't know if there's a whole lot more sexual stuff we can we could demonstrate without clothes coming off and this becoming a very different production than we had planned here. But I want to show you how to initiate sexuality at this point. And then I'll show you kind of how to go for the kiss. So the first thing in initiating sexuality is just breaking space with her. So a lot of guys, you know, if you, I'm sure this has happened to you before, a guy approaches you at a bar and he stands right here. He's like, hey, nice to meet you, right? So he hasn't broken space at all. When guys are more sexual and more sexually attuned, what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll stand close to her. You see this body language, and then they'll be comfortable breaking space. So you've probably seen me as I talk to Alex rocking in and out a lot. So I'd come in, maybe I'd like break her space like this. That'd be, well, we'll get to that in a minute. But the very first part of the conversation is I'm just going to come in and break her space and talk into her ear. It's just merely the fact that I'm breaking into her space and not afraid of doing it. Now here's the key point. I'm sure this has happened to you, is guys will, like, they'll come up, they'll talk to you, and then you're just like, here. It's like, whoa, creepy. So you want to break space and you want to leave it. Sexuality is truly a dance. It's something that you come in, you come out. Come in, you break space, blah, blah, we're talking, you come out. Now we're going to introduce a little bit of touch. So maybe when I come in, I'll just touch her very gently on the shoulder. Could you actually come around this way right here? Yeah, so maybe when I come in, I'm just going to like touch her real gently on the shoulder. I'm going to come back out. Now maybe as we continue to talk, and if you could turn just a little bit actually that way, as we continue to talk, so I've been like breaking space, I come in, I talk to her like this, right? Maybe now we're standing next to each other and like our arms are rubbing up against each other, so like we're like this. And now, you know, the conversation looks a little bit like this. Sometimes in the past, what I'll actually do is like kind of rub against her breasts a little bit and like, you know, and it's just, it's very incidental. You're in the bar, you're just like touching her and you come in like that. Whoops, you just accidentally touched her boobs. So as you're getting closer and closer with each other, maybe, you know, we're in the bar like this and we're starting to talk a little bit more closely and the heat's turning up a little bit. Come this way just a little bit. So one thing that might happen is if you could open your legs just a little bit. So at some point we're going to be standing like this, right? And my leg, actually, you know, sorry, one more time, flip around this way. My leg might actually be touching hers. My friend Richard was the first one to kind of show me this, and it's great. So I can be talking to her like this, and just kind of like bring my leg in like that, and be very close to her leg, touching like this. So that's very kind of sexual move. You can just see, I'll do very quickly the body language movements of like, you know, one to the next. So start off, we're talking, you know, kind of come in, break space, come back out. You know, now we're talking, I'm like, you know, my hand's on her shoulder, come back out. Maybe it comes around behind her back just for a second and come back out. And I come back in, now we're really talking and you can see like my legs on hers. If you see Nick talk, you'll see him kind of go like this from time to time. I can always tell when he's into a girl because his hands are in his pockets and he's just like kind of gently touching his crotch against her leg. But he'll give you some more, I haven't seen his latest move, so I don't know if that's what he's doing these days. Finally, how do you go for a kiss? So it's actually in a bar situation, and even like, you know, when you're walking down the street, it doesn't have to be that hard, right? So you can come in, you can like, do you guys ever play hockey? Anybody plays hockey here? You know what a deke is? It's when you fake to go one way and then you actually go the other way. So in the spirit of naming these techniques, really dumb names, I call this a face deke. Because what you're going to do is you're going to come into her face and it's going to make it look like you're actually about to kiss her, but you're just going to come to the side very briefly. So if you wouldn't mind moving this way. Yeah, so we're talking. Just watch my eyes that I come into her face, and then I'm going to just move to the side ever so gently. So I'm going to come in like this, and then just move to the side and say something in her ear, and come back out. So again, I might come in like this, and then just say something like that. And what you'll see, and that was it. Thank you very much. So what you'll see when you do that is as you start to come in, you'll see her do one of two things. Either she'll like recoil a little bit, and then it's like, okay, like we're not there yet, fine. Or she'll just kind of give you this eye like, ooh, is he about to kiss me? and you do that a few times and it just really builds a sexual tension. And then like the last time you kind of come in and you just gently plant a little kiss on her lips. Come back out, look her in the eye again, come back and kiss her again, and allow it to go from there. So that's how you might go for a kiss. I'll give you a couple other examples as we move through the weekend. But let's recap masculine power. That was a long-ass segment. You guys have been sitting down for a long time now. Let's recap what masculine power is all about before I move on. Masculine power is about dominance. You push to get what you want. It's about competence. To put it very succinctly, you come correct. It's about being challenging. You have high expectations for others. It's about being mysterious and not giving away your power. It's about being genuine, searching for and seeking truth in yourself and in the women around you. And it's about being sexual. It brings you pleasure to bring her pleasure. There are a lot of other great character traits as well. The whole 10-code course is 12 character traits that I find helpful as a complete man. But these 6 specific character traits are when you start to look at men in literotica and romance novels and see the sort of man who women really obsess over, these are the character traits that they have cultivated in their own life. So as we continue to go through the weekend, I will show you more of these in action, make sure that we link everything back to them. For the time being, any questions about the vast majority of things that I just discussed? Or if you guys want to take a pause for a moment before you reflect. Any questions? Not so far? All right, if you do have a question, we can come back to it. We'll close up this segment now, and the next one is, oh my, obsession perspectives. We'll have a couple of my friends joining to talk about various traits, perhaps give another demo or two, and light up the room.